Hi everyone, good afternoon. My name is Fathima Hakkim, and it's an absolute privilege and an honor to be here for the third time on TEDx. This one feels very special and personal and a comeback because I gave birth to my child 5 months back, and I felt two things in that moment. I felt an overwhelming love towards a new life and a devastating ache for a life I lost. And after I gave birth, or when people knew that I'm having a child, people told me that's it, it's over. Like you can rest now. And they said my body will change. They said my career will change, responsibilities will pile up, and my art will fade. Well, they were right to an extent. My responsibilities piled up so much. My body changed. The way I carry myself changed. But one thing that didn't change was art. Art did not fade, but instead it transformed. When I couldn't paint anymore, I started writing. When the responsibilities were piling up, I asked out for help. And when I was explicitly asked to shrink, I expanded. Because one thing in the world is when the world tells you to disappear, that's exactly when you should go and aggressively take up space. Because otherwise they're going to put you in very small boxes that you can't even fit. You don't need boxes. You can draw your own box. You can color outside the box. You can even burn all the boxes. It doesn't exist. And I want to take this stage, the privilege I have at the moment, to talk about something. Being a mother, enjoying my time with my child, talking about identity, talking about vulnerability, reflection, everything, pretentious and not. There, in another part of the world, there is a group of mothers who are burying their children. There is a genocide happening in Gaza. There is brutal violence happening in Sudan, Congo, Afghanistan, Yemen. It is a privilege to not talk about it. It is a privilege to not think about it. And our houses are intact. The people around us are safe. So we choose not to talk about it. And that's a massive privilege. But silence is a choice. Silence is a very loud conversation. And the world is always very loud with powerful people. But when it comes to powerless people, the world is very quiet. And that's exactly when and why we should raise our voice. And I will choose to stand with people who are not seen, who are not heard, and I will use every bit of my voice as much as I can to stand with them. And the privilege to look away also give you the privilege to speak up. So, yes. I know how it feels to not be seen because I'm talking about not being seen. I know exactly how it feels because I was never seen. I was this invisible, skinny little girl who sort of became a hologram when she went into classrooms. Nobody knew if I was there, nobody cared. And all my life, I was just craving for that validation that I am here. And that one little act of validation was the reason I became an artist in the first place. So this was when I was 7 years old, and my brother is 5 years old, and there was a painting competition going on. And we went there. And my brother is the perfect kid ever. Like he wakes up at 7 in the morning. Mom doesn't have to wake him up. He has a little blue chair. He sits there. He watches Sun TV. And I haven't waken up. The bus is honking, and mom is screaming at me. And there was a very clear disparity. So obviously, I was very jealous of him. We both used to draw, but I used to put so much time and effort in my work, and he would just randomly scribble. So when mom took us to this competition, the theme was draw your mother. and it's red tiled floor, and kids are sitting cross-legged, and we're all drawing. So when I got the theme, I drew a woman so beautiful, the pleats and everything shaded, so neatly folded, but it was not my mother. I borrowed someone else's mother just to impress the judges. But my brother, he was brutally honest. He drew a circle for the face, he drew a circle for the abaya, two dots, smiley face, that's it. That was his drawing. And he won the first prize. And I got something as forgettable as a steel plate. And when we came home, my mother couldn't stop raving about him. And she was like, oh my God, he did so good. The judges were so moved by him and everything. I'm sitting in a quiet corner looking at her, wishing it was me. That night, when we went to sleep, we usually sleep on the floor, on the mattress, and my parents sleep on the bed. Sometimes I listen to their conversations to understand if they're ever talking to me. Talking about me. That sounds desperate, but the reality. That day, mom was telling dad, oh, he did so well. He was so good. And then my dad said, well, Fatima was not that bad. And I remember that moment. I had to close my mouth so I don't giggle very loud. And it felt like a water pipe bursting and flooding every inch of my body with dopamine that I can't contain. Like, I'm seen, I'm validated, I'm here, they see me, I matter, I'm enough. And that happiness or that high was the reason for me to start, and it is still the reason for me to continue. And that is the story of how I became an artist. I'm a neurodivergent person. I stand on the autistic spectrum with ADHD with a little bit of dyslexia. It's a cocktail. It's a very interesting cocktail. You name it, I have a little bit of it. So for me to get clarity, art is the only way I get clarity. To understand what I'm feeling, to understand what I'm thinking, to understand who I am. My soul communicates to my mind through art. That is the only language they both understand. And when it flows through me and my body becomes a vessel or a pen, and my thought becomes like ink, I understand who I am. And I always picked the direction of art. So every time it showed me the way since I was a child. And in 2020, my father died out of the blue. I was in Bangalore at the time. This was during COVID. We had a very beautiful conversation the day before. And the next morning, I had like hundreds of missed calls in my phone. I woke up to it. I'm reading a text from my brother saying that Ita, dad passed away. Come home soon. So I rushed home, and the relatives are asking me, should we keep the body? Should we keep the body? I'm telling them what is best for him, and they said to bury him. And I asked them, this detail is not needed, but I'm in a flow, so I'm just gonna go with it. I asked him to put the phone on speaker next to my dad, because I remember my mom telling me that people who passed away, they stay in their room for a little while, waiting to say goodbye to everyone. And I was thinking, oh, dad must think that I don't care enough to be there, or he thinks that he doesn't matter that much to me. And it bothered me. And I couldn't take a chance. I don't know what to believe. So I asked my uncle to keep the phone on speaker mode next to my dad. And I said, Dad, I'm stuck in traffic. There's COVID happening. I can't straight away fly, but I'm on my way. When I reached back home, everything was there. The car was there. Dad's wallet was there. Everything smelled like him. His medicines was there. Everything was there. He was not there. And I couldn't tell him goodbye. I couldn't get closure. I was not ready to let him go. And being the person that I am, I don't know how to process grief. So from that day, for the next many days, instead of sitting and crying and grieving and seeing like a textbook sad person, I was in my room obsessively painting. I didn't stop. And that time, the kind of I'm self-taught person, by the way. I've never learned art. I do it all out of yes. So the kind of understanding I had towards lighting, coloring, character design, that was unbelievable. I felt like something so powerful is passing through me, and I felt like this is exactly what I should be doing. So I created a parallel reality. I painted a parallel reality where my father and I, we both exist and we're happy. So this is a parallel reality where we have lots of conversations that never happened. We are spending a lot of time that never happened. So many memories that never happened. Because I wanted to keep him alive for a little bit until I was ready to say goodbye to him. And I did a lot of paintings. And by the end of it, I sat down with the paintings and I thought, what should I do with it? And the answer was make a book out of it. So that way I can honor my father. I can speak about him. And I looked at one of the best universities for a master's in children's book illustration and graphic novels, and that led me to London. And I went there for a master's, and this book, which is called The Soul Blanket, was the final major project of that book. Now, because I decided to take that path of love of art, I ended up meeting my soulmate over there. And now we have a little ball of sunshine, a little ball of gorgeousness, and just everything divine because I chose to create and because I chose to believe in that path. I've I've always wanted to be somebody. We keep saying that I want to be somebody. Like we don't know exactly what it is. So to be that somebody, we take parts of success or we take parts of fame, admiration, recognition. But if you actually peel all the layers down, you only want to be seen or you only want to be enough. Or you just that's what we're desperately trying to do. If you make enough money, maybe you will matter. So I calculated my worth in numbers. How much money am I having in my bank account? How many hours did I work today? Or how many set of this one particular thing do I have? And I was graceful to everyone else. I could give everyone grace, but never me. I was held at such a high expectation of myself. And every time I paint, my mind keeps telling me, Fatima, this should be so much better than your last painting. You can't just scribble, you can't just do it for fun. And this painting should fetch you some work so that we are moving forward. And there was like meditation. I had like the things that I wanted to do for myself was meditation. I wanted to get fit, enough protein intake, fiber intake, water intake, incense sticks, yoga. Mm. I wanted to start my own clothing brand. I wanted to write books. I wanted to start a podcast and a million things. I wanted to be anything and everything. I wanted to be a wife, a daughter, a mother, and then I crashed. I crashed so bad. I always had this feeling that someone was watching me, like constantly looking at me, like, is she making a mistake or what is she doing now? Because I thought maybe I could be the center of the world. Not exactly, but yes. But when I fell down and I picked my pieces up, and when I got up, I realized that no one's looking. I don't really matter as much as I thought I mattered. And people are busy with their things. And in that quiet realization, I understood that I can be a nobody. Now, the beautiful thing about being a nobody is a nobody can make mistakes. A nobody can do stupid things. A nobody can be forgotten. A nobody can be forgiven. And a nobody can just exist as a nobody. And that was the liberation I ultimately wanted. My, my titles should never matter. My gender should never matter. No expectations out of me. That is when I could create the most beautiful paintings I've ever created, according to me. There was no pressure. There was no one watching. And instead of being a tourist in my process of creating art, traveling from one destination to another, I became a traveler with my art. I traveled wherever it took me. And it took me to incredibly beautiful places, places I never ever thought I would be. And I'm I'm extremely grateful for every little detour I took, every little path I crossed. My cue to end the speech. Thank you for being a really good audience.